In today's brief video, I'm going to share with you guys 5 things that I would tell my younger self about smoking weed that I wish I knew then, that I know now after years of sobriety from struggling with a cannabis substance use disorder or addiction. Now, if you wind up enjoying the content in today's video, be sure to check out the Addiction Mindset Recovery Coaching links in the pinned comment in the video description for more information about our free and paid coaching programs and resources. Piece of advice number 1 that I would give myself is that life is hard enough and that you don't want to do things that are going to make life harder. Work is hard. Relationships are hard. Managing your time is hard. Not getting sucked into the constant dopamine rush in marketing and all the other scams that were constantly being promoted in society is hard enough. Hustling to make a living and pay taxes and support a family is hard. And life does not necessarily get easier as you get older. So I would tell my younger self, figure out how to healthily cope and manage the stressors that you're facing today, because as life goes on, it's not going to get easier and you're going to need to be stronger than you are today. I spent many of my younger years waiting for life to get easier. And what I should have been doing was training both mentally and physically to become stronger. Addiction has a unique way of weakening a person. Running from our problems, picking a cope through cannabis, alcohol, tobacco products, pills, whatever it is, trying to constantly escape, trying to constantly run from things creates fear. It makes you scared. And when you're operating out of a place of fear and intimidation, it does in fact make you weaker. And when you are weak, life becomes harder. That would be my first piece of advice to myself. Tip number 2 would be the actions that you take today are going to determine how you live tomorrow. It's through consistent action at a high volume that's going to drive results, that's going to drive positive outcomes in your life. And if you're not producing a high volume of action on a consistent basis, you cannot expect to obtain any of the results or goals that you hope to achieve when you get older. The decisions that I was making when I was in my teens, when I was in my 20s, determined how I was going to live in my 30s, in my 40s. How I live now in my 30s and 40s is going to determine how I live in my 50s. I used to live life like any younger person would, day by day. I really, truly only lived in the moment. That's probably why I was so focused on consuming substances, because in the moment, they were fun. In the moment, they weren't always a bad thing. In the moment, it was a social thing. In the moment, there was some enjoyment out of those things. But it's those little moments that I was developing when I was younger that were going to determine the experiences and my quality of life as I got older. It's those little moments when you're younger that are going to determine how you run your business when you're older and the amount of energy that you have to put into it. Those little moments are going to determine your relationships. Those little moments are going to determine your mental and physical health. Not today, but years from now. I made a video on this called The Creep Effect of Cannabis, and I'm going to link that video in the video description in the pinned comment, because I take a really deep dive into this concept of the actions that you take today are going to determine how you live tomorrow. And cannabis for me certainly was standing in the way of a high output of consistent action. That cannabis use resulted in a low output of inconsistent action. And then guess what? I had inconsistent health, inconsistent relationships, inconsistent finances. And that did eventually bite me in the butt. And I've had to play catch up ever since because of those decisions that I made when I was younger. Tip number 3, I would tell myself, and I've heard this before from my parents, you have one body and you have one brain. And as someone who suffered from Cannabinoid Hyperemesis Syndrome, CHS, if you don't know what it is, look it up. It's a horrible condition that can develop from cannabis consumption and an acute state of psychosis and delusional behavior. I learned that firsthand, that you only have one body and you have one brain. I would tell my younger self, your life is not like a car. Your life is not like a new pair of shoes or like a new pair of clothes. When your body and your brain gets worn out, when it gets damaged, you don't have the luxury of trading it in for a new one. If you fry yourself from cannabis-induced psychosis enough times and eventually develop schizophrenia later on in life, that's a permanent change. If you dehydrate yourself enough times from vomiting from Cannabinoid Hyperemesis Syndrome, that could have permanent health consequences on your kidneys, on your liver, on your gastrointestinal system. If you smoke a lot, blunts, pre-rolls, joints, and you damage your lungs, and you're now at a compromised position of immune system functioning, you can't just trade out your lungs one day for a new set unless you're like super, super rich and super, super lucky. And that's assuming that after they do the lung transplant, that you don't get infections and things go wrong afterwards. You got one body, you got one brain, and you're stuck with it for however long you're on this earth. And it's up to you and the decisions that you make today that's going to determine how well that vessel functions in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. Because the things that you care about today are going to be extraordinarily different than the things that you care about later on in life. So you better start to think about that future version of you, because what you value right now, getting high with your friends, getting blackout drunk on the weekends, not making a lot of money because you don't have a lot of bills, is going to look very, very different when you're building a family, when you're growing in your career, and when these things start to matter. And you don't want the crappy decisions that you're making today to influence the outcomes in your future. Tip number 4, I would tell my younger self to value my time, because if you don't value how you use your time, time will not value you. And then what you will find is that you are constantly asking someone else for time. This could be in your job. This could be in your relationship. This could be at a doctor's office because you have become sick, and the thing you want more than anything else is your time. I am extremely protective of my reputation and my time these days. I understand that my time is one of the most valuable things that I have, because if I have control of my time, I can use that how I so choose. I can use that for faith practice. I can use that for spending time with my family. I can use that to grow my business and my entrepreneurship. That can drive me income. More income can buy me more freedom of time to spend time with my family, working on my mental health, working on my physical health. If you don't value your time when you're younger, and you don't learn the value of time from a very young age, you will wind up becoming screwed and a slave to someone else's time or something, i.e. addiction, cannabis, alcohol, something else's time that probably doesn't suit you very well. Tip number 5, and this is maybe one of the most important ones, is I would tell my younger self that you have a choice, that you can choose to do better. I felt so many times, because of my genetics, because of my parents' divorce, because of past traumas and incidents and things and struggles that I faced, that I didn't have a choice. I felt that I was trying to do the best that I could, and that was far from the truth. You have a choice right now. You, in your 20s, in your 30s, in your 40s, in your 50s, you have a choice on how you want to live when you get older. You have a choice as to what the next chapter of your life is going to look like. And if you're stuck in a chapter right now, getting high, getting drunk, watching adult media content all the time, and you don't like how this chapter looks, I would tell you, you better start to make better choices, and you better start to change that chapter, because you don't want the next chapter and the next chapter and the future chapters to suck just like this one does. And that is your choice. That is your responsibility to change it. That's on you. You can seek help. You can ask questions. I would encourage you to do those things. But at the end of the day, you have a choice. You are not doomed by your circumstances, by your genetics, or by your current living situation. It's on you to change it. It sounds harsh. It sounds firm, but if I talked to my younger self, I'd be a hard ass on him because he needed it. That would have been one of the best things that I could have heard. If you guys found this video helpful and you feel that maybe you need some guidance and some coaching, I promise not to lecture you like I did in this video, like I talked to my younger self. We do have an option for that in the link in the pinned comment and the links in the video description. We also make products for those of you guys that are entrepreneurs and dealing with a lot of stress. We make a chewing gum product, Kick It Crave Less Chewing Gum. It's a supplement specifically designed to help people quit cannabis, alcohol, nicotine, addictive substances. It contains KSM-66 ashwagandha, which is a clinically patented and proven ingredient to help increase a person's stress tolerance. That's a really good thing if you're in business for yourself, or if you're managing a family and you're a mother or a father at home trying to take care of kids all day long. It also contains N-acetylcysteine to help reduce cravings and reduce brain fog. There's a million other benefits to this supplement, but you can learn more about that on YouTube Shopping or the links in the pinned comment and video description. Until next time, guys.